This is the Ballroom State of Mind podcast, episode 125, Self-Trust. Welcome back, my friends. It's been a minute. Welcome to the podcast. I'm really happy to be with you today on the podcast. I've been missing you, so I'm glad I'm back. Before I get into the podcast today, I want to mention just a couple of things. Firstly, I wanted to mention about Beach Bash. So I was intending to go to Beach Bash. I've never been to Beach Bash. I hear great things about it. A lot of my former clients have been to that one and have recommended that one. And I intended to go this year for the first time, but I had injured myself at Gateway. And in order to be better safe than sorry, I decided not to go. And I was following it on social media because I just, FOMO. And just knowing a lot of people that were going to be there. And if you did not hear, one of our fellow dancers, Annabelle Martin, collapsed on the dance floor. And there were efforts made, of course, to save her, but she did not make it. By all accounts, Beach Bash handled it beautifully and as well as they could for such a tragic circumstance. But she did not make it. And I met Annabelle a little over a year ago at a competition. I think it was San Francisco, but it might have been City Lights. And anyone who knew her, she was just a brilliant, kind, wonderful human being. And she was such a fantastic dancer. And I especially adored her smooth because I don't dance a lot of smooth. And as somebody who is 5'2" and has been, told before that short people can't dance smooth well, she blew that theory out of the water. She and Misha were an awesome couple dancing smooth. And I was so inspired by them. But she, every time I saw her, whether it was at a competition or even just in some online interactions that I had with her, she was just so kind. She was positive. She was encouraging and just a bright light. And this is a tragedy that's just felt throughout our dance world. And my condolences go to her partner, Misha, her friends and her family, especially myself as a wife and as a mother. I cannot imagine what they're going through, and they just must be grieving her fiercely. And it's just a tough one. So if we're going to learn anything, let's just learn that life is precious and, chase your dreams, live the life that you want to live it to the fullest, and don't get stuck on things that don't really matter. That's what I'm thinking about today about that. So we're going to miss her tremendously. The second thing that I wanted to mention, which is compared to that, much less important, but I want to mention it, is I'm working on getting the podcast on YouTube as well as these other platforms. So I think I've mentioned it before, but I record a video when I record the podcast, and I've always done that, but I haven't done anything with them. So I'm working on getting them online, and I have a lovely girl, Lily, who's helping me with that. And we're just doing them kind of a little bit at a time. And I think we've got like 4 or 5 on there at this point. And so go subscribe. Go share it. It's just another way to listen, another way to share and to get help. And I'll link that in the show notes, but you can also just search for Amber Hayter Coaching on YouTube and you'll find it. Also, if you search for Amber Hayter, I've seen there's like a ton of interviews that I've done with different people. So that's kind of fun to go and look at those and reflect on the past. Those were really fun to do. So go check it out. All right, on to the podcast today. So this is a subject, self-trust, that is becoming more and more central to my thoughts on confidence. And today I want to relate it to anxiety, actually. I feel like the antidote to anxiety is actually self-trust. So think about this. If you've ever been preparing for a competition or preparing for just a performance, and you start to feel the anxiety creep up. For some of us, this might be months ahead. It might be many weeks ahead. And for some of us, it might just be like a day or 2 before the performance, or even just not even feeling it until you're like on deck, about to go on the floor, and you feel it. Your heart might be racing. Your hands might get clammy. You start to tell yourself to calm down, but nothing seems to work. You try to breathe. Maybe you repeat a mantra. Maybe you try to visualize, but deep down, you're still full of doubt or just general tension. And when people talk to me about anxiety or nerves, I'll sometimes ask how they want to feel, and it's usually something like calm or relaxed. But here's a thought. What if what we want to feel is actually not calm? What if what we actually want to feel is trust? What if the antidote to anxiety or stress or nerves isn't calm or relaxation? What if the real antidote is self-trust? There are a lot of factors that can contribute to how you feel before a big performance. And if you especially feel nervous or you feel anxiety, what we would label anxiety, there's a lot of different factors that can contribute to that. And it varies from person to person. But today, I want to dive into how a lack of self-trust, not just fear or nerves, might be the root cause of much of the anxiety that dancers feel on the floor, and how building self-trust can help you feel more grounded and present and ultimately more free in your dancing, which is what I think we want. We want to feel free. We want to feel grounded. We want to feel like certain, like self-assured, and we want to feel in control. We want to feel empowered. So let's do that. And let's see if we can leverage self-trust to get that. Okay. So let's start with one, why we might feel tense. So let's start with something many dancers experience. So you're preparing for the competition, you're preparing for the performance or whatever, the showcase, and the pressure is high. And you want to perform well. You want to hit all your marks, you want to make your finals, you want to just even present what you've prepared, and you feel pressure about that. You want to make your coach proud. And you want to impress the spectators or impress the judges. So what happens? In preparing for that, you start to maybe micromanage things, micromanage every little thing. So you might find yourself overthinking, maybe even over preparing, which I do advocate for you preparing and what I would call overlearning at certain times. But right before a competition, this can kind of backfire, because while you're rehearsing as much as possible, which is good, a lot of times in that moment, you're rehearsing from a stressful, anxious place. It's from like a fearful place. You're tense, you tense your shoulders, you're anticipating every mistake even before it happens. So you're imagining mistakes, which is basically rehearsing doom or visualizing doom, visualizing things going terribly, which we don't want to do. And you're trying to manage your nerves by controlling every external variable that you can. And this is a totally human response, but here's the problem. Is the more you try to control everything, the more you try to force, the more your body tenses up. Your mind gets noisy. You probably lose connection. You lose connection with the music. You lose connection with your partner. You lose connection with your purpose and your passion and your joy for dancing. And keep this in mind too. On some level, your brain knows that you are not actually capable of controlling all of this. You're not actually capable of preventing negative outcomes to like in 100%. You can't control everything and predict all of your results. So this alone is stressful because your brain is trying to control something it actually can't control. And so it's a giant expenditure of your energy for something that you can't actually control. So sometimes we might call this anxiety, but I like to take it a step further and go, well, what's really beneath that? Cognitively, logically, we all know that things might not go our way. This is a fact of life. We know that bad things can happen, undesirable things can happen, unpredictable things can happen. That's always a possibility. So why is it particularly stressful? And I think it's actually that we're lacking trust to a degree. That's just always going to be stressful because it's uncertain. And when the outcome's uncertain, we feel uncertain. That's normal. But so many of us just lack trust, because I feel like embedded in this is that whatever's going to happen, I don't actually believe I can handle it. So if we truly believed that we could handle it, we wouldn't be so worried about the outcome. We wouldn't be so worried about it. So I'm not so sure we need calm. I think we need trust. I think we need self-trust. So how do we shift into that? Let's talk a little bit about calm and the idea that calm is the goal. I don't think I really need to like convince you that it's not, but let's just talk about it a minute. So of course, it's great to feel calm. It's great to feel settled. Have you noticed how trying to force calm can actually make you feel more stressed? Like now you're not only anxious, but you're failing at calming down too. And that's because true calm is a side effect, I feel like, of self-trust. It's not really something you can will yourself into. You can't really will yourself into calm. It's something you kind of have to surrender to. So, what is self-trust? I think self-trust includes a few things. I think self-trust includes some reliance. It's like you rely on yourself, that you're going to show up for you. You can be relied upon to show up for yourself, to get your own back. I think self-trust includes some responsibility, that your success is dependent on you and really you alone. You get to define what success means. You get to work for it. You get to create the process and create the goals, and you get to work towards that. That's all your responsibility. And you're going to take responsibility for it and not delegate it to somebody else. When I take responsibility for the outcome, good or bad, then I'm in my own hands and I don't have to feel the uncertainty of putting it in the hands of others who I can't control. Okay. I think self-trust also includes resilience. It's a stick to itness. It's a grit that we have to embody, that we're not going to give up, that we're going to keep getting up and we're going to keep trying until we get it, and that we can rely on that. We can bounce back when things don't go well. Okay. So I think self-trust also includes like security and stability and safety and dependability. I like to kind of sum it up, and you guys have probably heard me say this before, but I like to sum it up by saying, I'm in good hands with me. I've got me. And that's what self-trust feels like to me. Like, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I've done. I trust me. Okay. So it's a different kind of anchor. Instead of controlling the storm all around me, I trust my boat. It's sort of that anecdote, if you've heard it, that a bird on a branch doesn't trust the branch. It trusts its own wings. Okay. So I want to offer you kind of 3 realms, maybe, or dimensions of self-trust for you to think about. And it kind of gives you a concrete thing to latch onto as you're learning to develop self-trust. And so I'm going to give you these 3 dimensions. Okay. The first one is to trust your past self. So trust what your past self has done. Trust your preparation. You've practiced. You've put in the reps. You've done lessons. You've done competitions. You've done showcases. You've done team matches. You've done all kinds of things to get prepared. But in the moment of pressure, it's easy to forget all of that and suddenly feel like you're unprepared, like you're not ready. And that's challenging because it can be hard to not focus on what we know we lack yet. We know we're missing stuff. We know we're not perfect. We know we haven't completed our development, and it's hard to not focus on that and let what you have done up to this point be enough for this moment. Okay. So trust that. This is where you remind yourself, I have shown up for myself before now. I have done the work. I am ready for today. I am ready for this moment. And everything that I have today is enough. And trust that the work that you've done will support you, even if it's not perfect. The expectation is not that you're a finished dancer today. You're not expected to be more than you are. Just bring what you have done forward and let that support you. Your past self has been participating in a process, right? You had a vision, you set some goals, you created a plan, and you were actioning that plan, and you've been at it for a while, and you've worked towards that systematically. So trust that process. Trust that that process is going to get you where you're trying to go. If not today, probably not too far in the distant future. So trust the effort that you put in. Trust also your past success. Bring them forward as well. We've talked in the past about creating a highlight reel. I have a notes app in my phone, and I put things in there that help me feel confident. They're reminders of the successes that I've had. There's messages in there that people have sent me that I inspired them, things like this that help me feel confident in my abilities. So take those successes that you've had in the past and bring them forward. They weren't flukes. Don't tell yourself it was a fluke. Don't tell yourself it was an accident. Don't tell you that something must have gone wrong and they somehow figured out you did well and that's weird. Don't do that. Own what you have done. Okay. Really let it sink in, really embody it. Let it support you. Okay. Trust in your past self. Number 2 is to trust in your present self. What does this mean? This means trust yourself in the moment. I think this is where a lot of us kind of lack self-trust. In the moment, we're kind of afraid of what's going to happen because it's a little bit unpredictable. And it's tricky. It's about letting go of the need to predict or control what happens, and instead trust your ability to respond in the moment. There is a certain amount of unpredictability in the present, even if you have done a bunch of preparation. So rather than let that quote unquote wobble take over, trust what you can do in the moment. So what can you do in the moment? One is trust your instincts. So many of us don't trust our instincts. Our body will tell us something, our instincts will tell us something, and our mind will promptly talk us out of it. But trust your instincts. Don't second guess yourself. Instincts are very in the moment and they're very current. They are right now. So trust your instincts. Trust what you feel. Trust your senses. Trust the signals your body is sending in the moment. And so when your instincts tell you to rely on your partner in this moment, then listen. And if your instincts tell you that something might not be the right choice right now, listen. Don't second guess it. And in the moment, you need to be able to make quick decisions. So trust your ability to make decisions and to make quick decisions. If you're a person who does a lot of second guessing and you rely on a lot of people outside of you to tell you what's right and to tell you what's the right decision, this is going to be challenging for you. But then that's definitely where your work lies. Okay. Trust your ability to make decisions in the moment. When you glitch or when you blank out, make a quick decision and go with it. Let yourself dance in the moment. Be present. Don't just execute steps and figures. Let the work live through you. I know this is easier said than done, but that's why we're talking about it. Trust your instincts, trust your presence, trust your muscle memory. Those are all very present, current things. And yes, this means you might make a mistake, but trust yourself to recover, to adapt, to keep going. That's what real performers do. They don't avoid mistakes. They're just very practiced at handling them. When you trust yourself, you're better able to keep your head, like keep your wits about you and make the decisions about how to move forward. And even if you choose wrong, choose to get your back on it. Compare this to waffling, doubting, second guessing, being hesitant. While it's not really wrong, it's just going to make it hard to keep dancing and keep continuing. Okay, so number 3 is to trust your future self. We often forget this one. Self-trust, I think this one is so important. You guys have heard me talk about this so much, you're probably sick of it. But self-trust means knowing that after this performance, after this competition, after this round, you're not going to tear yourself apart. After a coaching, you're not going to tear yourself apart. You're not going to beat yourself up. So much of the anxiety that we feel, we will attribute to a poor outcome, like making mistakes or like not performing to the best of our ability or poor marks. But I don't think it's the outcome itself so much as what we will make that outcome mean and what we will do to ourselves because it's an outcome we didn't want. That's what we don't like. That's what we fear. That, and when there's a poor outcome, we're going to tear ourselves to shreds, even at a subtle level. Sometimes it's subtle. But if I know going into something, even subconsciously, that like when I crash this car, I'm not only going to have to deal with the crash, but I also have to deal with the like verbal, emotional, or physical beating of my parent, for example, it makes driving that much more scary. But if I knew that no matter what happened, that I would be in good hands, I would be able to achieve so much more. It means no matter how I do, I'm going to speak to myself kindly, or at least fairly. I'm going to reflect honestly, but with compassion. I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be firm. I'm going to be disappointed probably, or embarrassed or whatever, if it's an outcome I don't want, but I'm going to learn from it. And then I'm going to move on. I'm not going to wallow in it. I'm not going to ruminate in it. I'm not going to continually hurt myself with it. Okay. This kind of self-trust creates emotional safety, and emotional safety creates that freedom of performance that you're looking for. So let's talk kind of in conclusion, let's talk about the results that you get from self-trust, like what you can expect. Because when you build self-trust, a few powerful things happen. One is that you will feel more comfortable in your body, because instead of micromanaging every moment or tightening up in anticipation of doing something wrong, you start to feel at home in your own skin, and you're not dancing with a mental handbrake on. You can breathe more easily. You allow yourself to take up space. You move not just with technical intention, but also with emotional presence. You look more comfortable, which makes everybody feel more comfortable, including spectators, including judges. You're not stuck in your head analyzing every count or second guessing every step. You're going to be able to drop down into your body and connect with the music, with your partner, and with the floor. You're no longer going to be dancing from that place of fear or stress or tension, the fear of messing up, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being enough. You're dancing from love, from sufficiency, from enoughness, from joy, from passion. And your audience can feel the difference. Okay, another thing that comes from this self-trust is that you're going to just have more freedom to create. Okay, there's nothing that kills creativity faster than just like self-judgment. Okay, when you trust yourself, the fear of making mistakes doesn't seem so bad. It doesn't loom so large. Creativity doesn't really worry about mistakes because creativity is open. You stop dancing to avoid doing it wrong. Like, how many of you are dancing trying to avoid doing it wrong instead of dancing to express something real, dancing to create? With self-trust, you give yourself permission to take risks, to play. I've told you before how important play is in your dancing. It gives you the opportunity to improvise, to fully embody the story or the character of your dance. Your movement will become more personal. It'll be more powerful and more just like alive. You're not just executing choreography. You can interpret it. You can live it. Like, the expression kind of deepens, like, and you're connected more genuinely with your partner because you're not distracted by your internal judgment or just your self-monitoring. So you're going to connect more easily, connect with the audience because you're not hiding. You're just going to be more present, and your presence is magnetic. You guys can tell when a dancer is present and when they're stuck in their head, micromanaging themselves and trying to control an outcome out of fear. You know what it looks like. You know what it feels like. A third result from developing this self-trust is you stop burning out quite so much. Perfectionism and pressure are exhausting. How many of you are tired? I had one of my clients this week say, I'm just so tired. And yes, dancing is physically tired, but it's emotionally tired when it's full of doubt and self-judgment and criticism and all of that. So when your inner dialogue is constantly questioning whether you're good enough, whether you're doing enough, or whether you're worthy of being seen, every practice and every performance feels like a test. That is such a good thing to think about. Do you think your performance feels like a test? That will wear you down emotionally. It'll wear you down mentally and even physically. When you build self-trust, you start to perform from a different source, not from pressure, but from belief. You no longer feel like you're dancing for survival or for approval. Ugh, gross. You're dancing because you want to, because you love to, because it brings you alive. And that shift doesn't just preserve your energy, it expands it. Like, think about how when you're having fun with something, it can still take a lot of effort, but it doesn't deplete you the same. You actually will enjoy your dance journey more. You're going to recover faster from hard days. You're going to stay in the game longer because you're not constantly working against yourself. You're becoming your own safe place, not just when you're winning, okay, but when you're growing through all of it. All right. So here's the invitation, okay? Instead of trying to like control your or suppress your anxiety, kind of like we talked about in the beginning, we're going to just try building self-trust. You can continue to work on, breathing and visualizing and everything that promotes a calm and safe nervous system. Continue to do those things. There's nothing wrong with them. I highly recommend them. We're still working on settling down our nervous system and creating safety. Okay. But also ask yourself, have I shown up for myself before today? Sometimes we're going into a performance and part of our like anxiety or unrest is because we didn't really prepare. We didn't really show up for ourselves in the ways that we knew we could. And so did you show up for yourself before today? Did you show up in the process? Did you prepare? Can you trust yourself to be present? Okay, like in the present moment. And are you practicing trusting your instincts and trusting your decision-making in the moment? Can you promise to support yourself afterwards? Support yourself in results, support yourself in outcomes, not just when it's the outcome that you want, but when it's also the outcomes that you don't want. Can you get your own back no matter the outcome? You don't need to be perfect to be confident. Okay. You just need to trust that whatever happens, you can handle it and that you're on your own side. So much confidence is actually built in challenges and overcoming challenges and things that don't go our way. That builds so much more confidence actually than just doing things perfectly all the time. That can contribute, but it can also feel really disconcerting because then it feels like it's something we have to maintain and we're not going to be able to be perfect all the time. So cultivate self-trust. Okay. Thank you for being here today. I hope that you share this podcast. I can't believe I'm at 125 episodes. I feel like about every 20 episodes I say that. But I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of 125 episodes. And so every once in a while I look through the list because I look through the titles and I think about the stuff they've already shared and I think about what might be lacking or what might be missing or what I need to talk about next. And there's so much value in those 125 podcasts. Every once in a while, I'll pull one up and I'll listen to an old one and I'm like, that is so brilliant. And I don't even remember saying it. Okay. And some of it's just okay. And not every episode is for every person, but I hope that you're going back and listening to some of those old episodes because they are gold. And you are a different dancer maybe than when you started listening. And those are going to resonate with you differently. So please go back and listen to some of those earlier episodes. Okay. Now, if this resonated with you, I hope you'll take it to your next practice. I hope you'll take it into your next performance or your next lesson. I hope that self-trust isn't just for the big moments. I hope that you're building self-trust every day. Okay. And that you're choosing to believe in yourselves. And I just love you. Thank you so much for being here. Go check it out on YouTube, Amber Hader Coaching, and we'll catch you next time.